The phone trembled in my hand like a venomous snake, its screen glowing with the single contact labeled Hubby. My heart hammered against my ribs as I pressed call, the ring echoing in the dim crawl space where I'd pried open the vent, dust choking my throat. One ring. Two. Then, a soft, familiar laugh, Sarah's laugh, my best friend of 15 years, the one who'd held me through every tear, every triumph. "Hey, love," she purred, her voice dripping with intimacy I'd only ever heard in my own bedroom. "Miss me already?" The world tilted, shattered glass exploding in my chest. Tom, my Tom, had been lying in her bed, their bed, while I scrubbed our home spotless, blind to the betrayal rotting beneath our feet. In that instant, humiliation burned through me like acid. I'd been the fool, the side dish, the discarded wife, while they wove their web of lies around my shattered trust. Rage ignited, a feral scream clawing up my throat. I smashed the phone against the concrete, but the echo of her voice lingered, fueling a vow etched in blood. They would pay. Every stolen kiss, every whispered secret, every night I slept alone, they would drown in the wreckage of their own deceit. The days blurred into a haze of calculated fury after that discovery. I, Emily Hargrove, once the picture of suburban bliss, a marketing exec with a laugh that lit up rooms, a husband who brought me coffee in bed, a best friend who was family, now moved through my life like a ghost haunting its own grave. The secret phone, its shattered remnants swept into a drawer like yesterday's trash, became my talisman. I'd found it wedged in the HVAC vent during a frantic search for a lost earring, Tom's hurried footsteps echoing from the garage as he worked late again. But dialing that contact had unleashed the monster within me, one that fed on the rot of betrayal. Revenge wasn't a choice, it was oxygen. It seeped into my veins, turning every smile into a mask, every conversation a reconnaissance mission. At first, it was small thorns, hacking Tom's email with a password I knew too well, our anniversary, the irony bitter as bile, scrolling through months of deleted threads between him and Sarah. "God, am so clueless," he typed once, followed by her winking emoji and a photo of them tangled in sheets that weren't ours. My stomach churned, but I didn't cry. Tears were for the weak, and I was forging steel in the fire of my rage. Instead, I printed screenshots, timestamps etched like scars, building a dossier in a locked box under my bed. Each page turned the knife deeper, but it also sharpened my resolve. Work became my battlefield. I'd always been ambitious, climbing ladders with charm and grit, but now every pitch meeting was laced with venom. I volunteered for the high-stakes merger with Sarah's firm. Yes, the same one where she fluttered her lashes at clients, securing deals with her irresistible poise. "Emily, you're on fire lately," my boss said, clapping my shoulder after I torpedoed a competitor's bid with ruthless precision. Fire? It was inferno, baby. I imagined her face when the merger collapsed, her career teetering like the house of cards they'd built on my back. But the burden gnawed at me, a constant itch under my skin. Nights, I'd lie awake beside Tom, his snores a mocking symphony, plotting how to unravel him thread by thread. Sleep evaded me. Coffee turned to sludge in my gut. My reflection in the mirror showed hollow eyes, cheekbones sharpened by skipped meals. Revenge was starving me from the inside out. It poisoned everything it touched. My sister, Lena, noticed first. We'd always been close, her dropping by with wine and gossip, but now my silences stretched like chasms. You're scaring me," she said one evening, her hand on mine as we sat in my kitchen, the same one where Tom and I had hosted barbecues with Sarah giggling at his side. I wanted to spill it all, the vent, the call, the photos, but the words stuck like thorns. Trust was a luxury I couldn't afford. Instead, I snapped, "Just stressed, okay? Leave it." Her hurt eyes followed me as I stormed out, the door slamming like a guillotine. Guilt flickered, a brief shadow in my blaze, but I crushed it. They deserved isolation. Why shouldn't she feel the chill? Then came the first real strike, the one that tested the razor edge between justice and oblivion. I'd traced their love nest, a dingy apartment on the city's edge, rented under a fake name I'd uncovered in Tom's browser history. Parking across the street one rainy night, I watched them through fogged windows, Sarah in that red dress I'd complimented at brunch, Tom nuzzling her neck like I was a ghost. My hands gripped the wheel until knuckles whitened, a scream building. Drive into the building? Slash the tires, and leave a note dripping with their sins? The destruction tempted, a siren's call to watch flames lick their perfect lies. But no. Too quick, too merciful. I waited until they left for dinner, then slipped inside with a copied key from his junk drawer. Photos everywhere, them on beaches I'd funded with overtime, toasts with champagne I'd bought. I smashed frames, smeared lipstick messages on mirrors, whore in crimson arcs, liars scrawled across their bed. Not enough to call cops, but enough to fester. As I fled into the downpour, rain mixing with the sweat of exhilaration, I felt the weight settle heavier. This wasn't justice. It was a slow bleed, and it was carving hollows in my soul. Friends drifted, invites to girls' nights ignored, my once vibrant circle shrinking as paranoia whispered everyone knew. Tom's touches turned my stomach. I'd feign headaches, locking the bathroom door to vomit up the bile of disgust. Yet the drive propelled me, a dark engine. One night, alone with a bottle of scotch, I traced the scar on my palm from childhood with Sarah, blood sisters, we'd sworn. Now, I'd make it a covenant of ruin. The burden wasn't just eating me. It was remaking me into something feral, decisions dictated by the pulse of payback. Lena called again, voice cracking. You're vanishing him. Come back to us. Us. The word mocked, the family they'd stolen. I hung up, fingers dialing a PI's number instead. The hunt intensified, revenge's chains tightening, pulling me deeper into the abyss where light was the spark of their downfall. Months carved deeper grooves into my existence. Revenge no longer a shadow, but the very architecture of my days. The dossier swelled, a Bible of betrayal. Bank statements showing Tom's siphoned funds into their getaway fund. Sarah's emails plotting how to ease me out, with fabricated affairs on my end. Each revelation was a lash, but it fueled the forge. I'd quit my job after sabotaging the merger. Sarah's firm hemorrhaging clients. Her LinkedIn frozen in denial mode. What happened to you? A former colleague texted. What happened? I died, and this husk rose hungry. Isolation was my armor now. Lena's pleas turned to silence after I lashed out at a family dinner, accusing her of blind loyalty to a sister she barely knew anymore. Tom's bewildered glances. Babe, you're distant. Only stoke the fire. Distant? I was a volcano, simmering for eruption. The pursuit warped my world into a chessboard of malice. I funneled savings into the PI, who unearthed more. Sarah's history of home-wrecking, Tom's gambling debts she'd bailed with my money. It drove every choice, selling our home under the guise of starting fresh, pocketing the equity while he vacationed with buddies. The real estate agent cooed over staging, oblivious to the ghosts. Moving to a stark loft downtown, I shed our life like snakeskin. Each box unpacked a ritual of erasure. But the cost mounted, mirrors avoided, food tasteless, nights haunted by replays of that voice. Hey love. It echoed in dreams, twisting into nightmares where I clawed at their throats, waking drenched in sweat. Justice blurred with destruction. Was I avenging or annihilating? One dawn, staring at a knife block, the temptation surged, to end it swift, blood on my hands as absolution. But no, their suffering had to mirror mine, prolonged, intimate, soul-shredding. The turning point came not as mercy, but as accelerant, a leaked audio from the PI, Tom's voice slurring to Sarah. M suspects nothing, she's too trusting. We can ditch her after the divorce papers. Too trusting. The words ignited a primal roar. No more games. I confronted the mirror, eyes blazing. This truth wasn't redemption, it was license. They weren't just lovers, they were predators, and I was the prey turned hunter. It hardened me, decisions crystallizing. Revenge wasn't a burden anymore. It was purpose, the only thing tethering me to sanity. The climax brewed in a storm-lashed warehouse on the industrial fringe, the site of their latest business meeting, per the PI's tale. I'd lured them with an anonymous tip. Come alone if you want the proof gone. Tom arrived first, rumpled suit reeking of cheap cologne, Sarah trailing in heels that clicked like accusations. I stepped from shadows, dossier in hand, voice steady as steel. Recognize this? I flung the phone shards at their feet, photos spilling like confetti from hell. Tom's face drained to ash. What? Sarah's gasp was theatrical, eyes wide with feigned shock. This isn't what it looks like. I laughed, a jagged sound that echoed off rusted beams. Save the script, Sarah. I heard you. Hey, love. Her flinch was nectar. I circled them, predator to prey, detailing every sin. The apartment desecrated, the merger gutted, the funds drained. Tom's pleas tumbled. It was a mistake. Baby, I love you. But his eyes darted to her, the real anchor. Rage crested, a tidal wave. I revealed the final blow. Divorce papers filed that morning, assets frozen, his debts exposed to her bosses via anonymous leaks. You'll lose everything, I hissed, shoving printouts into his chest. Sarah lunged, nails raking my arm. You bitch. But I backhanded her, the slap ringing like vindication. Blood trickled from her lip. Satisfaction bloomed, dark and intoxicating. The confrontation peaked in chaos. Tom on his knees, begging, Sarah hurling vitriol that glanced off my armor. I didn't strike again. Words were my blade. You stole my life. I snarled, voice breaking not from pain, but power. Now watch yours burn. As sirens wailed, my PIs tipped to cops about their embezzlement scheme. I walked away, their screams fading into rain. No mercy, no glance back. The resolution was mine. Their empire crumbled in headlines the next week. Arrests, scandals, lives in tatters. I vanished to a coastal cabin. The seas roared drowning echoes, rebuilding not in forgiveness, but fierce independence. Revenge had hollowed me, yes, but it birthed a woman unbreakable, forged in the pyre of their ruin. In the end, the cost of revenge was etched in my scars. Isolation's bite, joy's absence, a heart armored against the world. Yet in its flames, I glimpsed truth. Destruction begets strength, and for the betrayed, it's the only throne worth claiming. The power of holding on. It carves empires from ashes, unyielding and eternal. Moral of the story. Revenge is the forge that tempers the broken into blades, sharp and unyielding, cutting paths through the deceit that once bound you.